Good morning. It's August 2nd today, and we're in Second Chronicles chapter 32. And this is the continuation of Hezekiah's reforms, but in this chapter, his resolve and the resolve of the people is going to be tested severely to see, I think, how faithful Hezekiah will be given a very significant temptation to abandon the Lord and his provisions here. It's when the king of Assyria comes, Sennacherib, and actually lays siege against the city of Jerusalem too. And if you were Hezekiah, you might be tempted to think, man, I've done everything I can to obey the Lord, and yet here we are in this desperate situation where the king of Assyria is knocking on our door and going to invade. And so he's going to have a decision to make here, and that's going to be forced here, beginning in verse 6 of chapter 32. Um, so he's done a lot of preparations. He's rebuilt the walls. He has encompassed a larger part of the city. He's also brought the water source within the walls so that the king of Assyria won't have access to it, and they will during the siege. Let's go down to verse 8. Well, no, let's do verse 6. He appointed military officers over the people and assembled them before him in the square of the city gate and encouraged them with these words. That's Hezekiah. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of the king of Assyria and the vast army with him. For there is a greater power with us than with him. With him is only the arm of flesh, but with us is the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles. And the people gained confidence from what Hezekiah the king of Judah said. Later, when Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and all his forces were laying siege to Lachish, he sent his officers to Jerusalem with this message for Hezekiah, king of Judah, and for all the people of Judah who were there. This is what Sennacherib, king of Assyria, says. On what are you basing your confidence, that you remain in Jerusalem under siege? When Hezekiah says the Lord our God will save us from the hand of the king of Assyria, he is misleading you, to let you die of hunger and thirst. Did not Hezekiah himself remove this God's high places and altars, saying to Judah and Jerusalem, you must worship before one altar and burn sacrifices on it? Do you not know that I and my predecessors have done to all the people of the lands of the other lands? Were the gods of those nations ever able to deliver their hand from my hand? And he makes a logical, rational argument from a pagan perspective, from a polytheistic perspective. But he completely misunderstands the reforms that Hezekiah has done. And that's what I love about this because it has that ring of authenticity to it. Of course, he misunderstands what the one true God has required and prescribed for his people in terms of worship. And he misunderstands how Hezekiah has actually been obedient to the Lord in tearing down these altars. Because as a polytheist would think, let's worship these gods wherever we get a chance to do that. And what God alone, the one true God, has said is, no, you will worship me in this one place as I've prescribed for you. So it makes perfect sense that the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, misunderstands and misapplies what Hezekiah is doing here. And I think it's interesting that he so clearly and straightforwardly says, don't have confidence in this Hezekiah. Eventually, he's going to say that it is the God of Israel who's actually sent me to destroy you. And so he's trying to use their theology against them, but he has a lot of flaws in how he understands their theology. So certainly makes sense that Sennacherib would have those kind of flaws. But also, we're going to see how Hezekiah stands by what he knows to be true, and that's a tremendously reassuring and inspiring story from Hezekiah.